We're live. Here he is. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us back on another Thursday night, 7:30, with experts from all around the world. Andy McPhee on last week from Malay, which we had some technical difficulties, and this week we've got Will on from Melbourne. So hopefully we don't have the dropout and all the issues that we had as last week, but we've gone local this week, which is brilliant. So again, I just want to thank our sponsors, Resilience Agenda. They're still looking after us, which is stuck by us for a few episodes now, and we're still giving away our Resilience Agenda diaries to those who engage with and contribute to each episode. So as I've always said in the previous episodes, Resilience Agenda, changing the meaning of mental health. Imagine a world where people are inspired to think of their mental fitness just as they do their physical fitness, and to know the tools, strategies about to make mental health more relevant, more inspiring, and more engaging, which is really, really important. So you can find the Resilience Agenda on the website, but as I said before, if we engage and get involved tonight, we will be giving away not only the Resilience Agenda, but we will be giving away, as I've spoken about on previous episodes, we've got our emotional cue cards from the I Am movement, which we're rocking Team Slade. So we've got, where's the camera? We always stuff that up. We've got Joy there. So I'm giving away these resources for primary school emotional cue cards, and they're culturally sensitive. So it's just a component of our primary school program, but I want to share that with the world. So we're giving away those. We've also got merchandise packs as well. So try your lucks, join in tonight, ask questions and engage with everyone. And hopefully you end up with one of those awesome prizes, because there's no good them sitting with us. I just want to introduce someone tonight before I introduce Will. Where is she? We've got a new guest tonight. We've got a co-host. So we've got Peanut. She doesn't know what's going on, but Mum, happy birthday. It's my mum's birthday tonight, and I wouldn't be able to do the things that we do if I didn't have the love, support, compassion, empathy, and care from day one to this very moment from my mum. So happy birthday, Mum. I hope you're having an awesome night as much as you're stuck inside, and I've got Peanut over here and not down there. So happy birthday, Mum. Hopefully tonight there's something in it for you as well. Also, remembering that these episodes are brought to you by experts and professionals in the field. However, if you are experiencing suicidal crisis or struggling with mind and behavioural health issues, please remember to contact Lifeline on 13 11 14 or Beyond Blue on 1300 22 46 36. So Lifeline on 13 11 14 and Beyond Blue on 1300 22 46 36. So please, by all means, engage tonight, ask your questions. But if it is a crisis situation, it is hard for us to monitor that tonight. So please reach out to the professional services that are here in Australia and doing a magnificent job on the hardest edges of love and life. Now on to our guests. So mental health in the performing arts is under the spotlight now more than ever, and especially with COVID-19. So with a number of high-profile performers giving voice to their own mental health issues, Will Centurion is on a mission to return the focus of our students, educators, and artists back to those universal goals. To celebrate this creative and vibrant industry of ours by supporting its beautiful minds in a healthy and safe way. And I can advocate for that. He does a magnificent job. So with 20 years experience as a professional performer right around the world, Will knows personally the highs and lows that can cripple even the most seasoned of artists. Will is a qualified mental health practitioner who focuses on working with performing arts youth, as I said. Will is passionate about providing them, our youth, and the creative minds with counselling and life coaching programs to help facilitate that self-care and belief. As mentioned, having worked for over 20 years as a music theatre performer, Will has an industry-informed approach to help emerging professionals manage their anxiety, their social media stress, the self-doubt, the body shaming, and the career burnout, all of which we'll talk about throughout this episode. His international and Australian credits as a performer include So You Think You Can Dance, used to be one of my favourites, Will. West Side Story, A Chorus Line, The King and I, Lion King, Aladdin, and In the Heights. Aligning with his remarkable achievements in the arts, performing right around the world on some of the biggest stages, goes hand in hand with his amazing achievements as a keynote speaker and facilitator of mind and behavioural health content. Some of those include the Big Anxiety Festival 2019, where you were an ambassador of that, the Drama Victoria Unity and Diversity Conference as a speaker in 2019, ANZAH. I won't try and abbreviate that in case I get in trouble for it being wrong. So Workplace Mental Health Conference as a keynote speaker in 2019, Entertainment Assist Program Facilitator at Swinburne University in 2020, Royal Academy of Dance Australia Conference speaker in 2020, and Australian Dance Festival 2020 keynote guest speaker. So a long list of, and that's just a few of those, but some really big stages, not only as a performer, but a great advocate for mind and behavioural health. So since September of 2019, Will has continued to expand his personal brand, Will Centurion, Counselling and Life Coaching, into a mental health services, launching initiatives such as the Student Mental Health Solutions Program, the Teachers Mental Health Toolkit, and Coping with COVID seminars. So, which is really, really important and probably leads me straight into it. Let's tuck into it tonight. It's good to see you, mate, and you come with a wealth of knowledge and experience in a field that I don't know too much about, but bloody interested in learning more and to see what goes on for these people in these high performing and highly scrutinized areas. So this one's going to be a beauty. Well, welcome to Confined by Walls, Not by Heart. How is COVID treating you, brother?
Thanks for having me on board. I have to say that is one of the best intros I've ever received. Honestly, round of applause to you.
Your achievements, mate. So.
Yeah, that was epic. So hi to you, hi to everyone that's tuning in. So yeah, this has been a really interesting time. I think everyone's sort of having their personal experience of what's going on, and some businesses are really struggling. Luckily, mental health is moving to the forefront in a period like this. So I've been extremely busy, almost too much. So I need to sort of look after my self-care a little bit more because I'm borderline burnout. But it's all for a good cause, and I'm happy to be doing it.
Yeah, we touched on just then about the COVID seminars that you are running. You obviously have hit the ground running as soon as it's happened. I mean, we've only been in this for 2 months or just over a month for some people. To be able to come up with that content straight away and helping people out there that are doing it really tough right now. What's some of the things that are involved in those trainings and courses that you find that are really beneficial to people right now struggling in these bizarre circumstances that we find ourselves in?
So one of the 3 main themes that I like to cover in those sorts of seminars are firstly, disconnection, because everybody's going through some sort of disconnection. And I think the bigger the gap between you and that thing that's really important to you that you're missing, the more likely that emotional and psychological challenges will live in that space. So just being able to identify what your disconnection is and what you're feeling away from allows you to label it and allows you to work with the gap and hopefully build a bridge. The other thing is grief and loss. Everyone's going through their stage of grief and loss at the moment, and I don't think that we address that as much as we should. People have had to let go of their lifestyle. People have had to let go of their structure. People have had to let go of their dreams, and there's a lot of pain that comes with that. So we address all of the stages of grief, and it allows people to go, well, it's not just me, and I can actually better understand now what it is that I'm going through. And the other thing is coping mechanisms, because everybody's got their own coping mechanisms. So some people do bounce back. Some people are like fight, flight, flow, freeze. Some people are wait and see approach. Some people are like effort and armoring up and getting in there and problem solving. So we just talk about what your coping mechanism is for what's going on for you, and give people to just be able to go through that authentically and not have to pretend to be something else or to make up a way of approaching things when it's actually not what they're feeling.
So important. Have you seen a good response from people in COVID willing, I guess, or owning the situation that they're in and coming forward and going, hey, I've probably got a few things going on and wouldn't mind flattening that curve?
I think, to be honest with you, I think what I've observed is that everyone's, particularly in our industry, in the performing arts industry, everyone's still in a phase of shock. So I don't think the dust has settled enough yet for people to address what the underlying issues are. I think everyone's scrambling to problem solve and to survive, pretty much. And so there's a lot of panic, and there's a lot of like quick fixing, and there's a lot of this sense of urgency and the sense of like needing to heal and needing to repair quickly. And I think once that stage of shock dies down and people can actually just sort of sit with their vulnerability, they'll be able to do some of the addressing of the things that are really causing issues for them, and and that, you know, by doing that will benefit them in their long term.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, a couple of words come to mind that you just mentioned then, and you talk about the industry that you work in the performing arts, and you spent, as we said in the intro, over 20 years of experience. And I know a little bit more about you than some of the viewers will. But if you want to take us back, Will, to your journey into the performing arts, I mean, you've been doing it for a long time, including 8 years over in Europe at the highest level, as I mentioned in some of the performances that you've been in, are some of the biggest ones in the world. You want to talk to us about that cutthroat industry, and I guess the words that you mentioned, a sense of urgency and being able to repair ourselves. These are some of the things that I would associate with the cutthroat industry that is performing arts. It's sort of putting some real necessities on the back burner for a lot of people that I've interacted with, so that we can get to be in these roles, and we sort of make that priority instead of our wellness a priority, because of the demand and the limited opportunities that there are for people to really hit the big stage.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's a tough industry. This is not, you know, being in the performing arts is not an easy journey at all. There's a lot of criticism. There's a lot of deconstruction. You know, it's competitiveness. There's job scarcity. It's a really, really tough industry, and it's not for the weak. And so you're not allowed to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
You know, vulnerability is frowned upon, and vulnerability gets in the way of the work, and vulnerability gets in the way of being able to do 8 shows a week at the highest level. And so a lot of people just tend to bury and compound, and I'll address that later. And, you know, like, I've just got to plant a smile on my face and get out there and, you know, show tits and teeth and play, you know, the happy performer, when, you know, once the curtain comes down, I go home and I'm in tears and I'm hurting and I'm breaking apart. But unfortunately, I can't talk about that, because there's this fear that your reputation will be tarnished, and that you'll be easily replaced, because this is kind of like a survival of the fittest industry.
Yeah, going back on, I've only been able to do the plumbing inside some of these buildings, and I've seen exactly what goes on for a lot of people. And as you said, backing up performance after performance after performance, you really don't have a choice but to put things on the back burner and to focus on the task at hand. Otherwise, for some cases, I mean, you can really see it shine through in their performance when things aren't well and when things aren't going to plan. As you said, it's the tits and teeth on show and putting it all behind you until everything's done. And at that stage, it can also be too late. You want to take us back to some of your journey? I mean, as I said, you spent 20 years in the field at the highest level. Do you want to take us through the peaks and troughs of performing for yourself, mate?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I think I started on the back foot right from the beginning, because I didn't start dancing until I was 18. And so for me, you know, I spent a lot of time trying to catch up, and that, you know, there were major blows to my self-confidence. There were major blows to my self-esteem. You know, to be honest with you, I guess maybe that's when the whole sort of imposter syndrome thing started, because, you know, I didn't have what everybody else had. You know, I built a 20-year career on 3 years of training, whereas people have built careers, you know, when they've been dancing since they were 3. So for me, I always felt like I was on the back foot. I always felt like I was running my own race, and that took its toll, because it, you know, it affects your confidence, and you feel like you're not good enough, and there are moments where you feel like you shouldn't be there because there's someone that's more worthy than you. So, you know, it's scarring. And then I soldiered on, and I plowed on, and, you know, like, I had an incredible career, and I've done some phenomenal things, you know, with the little foundation that I had. And I think I buried and subsided everything probably right until about, like, maybe 17 years in, and then it just exploded like there was no tomorrow.
Yeah,
and I think the effort reward thing was out of balance. I was no longer, you know, it became a real struggle doing those 8 shows a week, being away from family, being away from partner. And so my depression kicked in, my anxiety kicked in. I became a recluse. It was a really, really dark time for me. And it was this kind of like dual, you know, battle between doing what I loved, but no longer making me happy, and actually it working against me. So yeah, it was a roller coaster ride. I'm not going to lie. Was it worth it? Absolutely. But nonetheless, it did take its toll.
Oh, absolutely. I can only imagine. And you just mentioned then the depression and the signs and the undoing of all your good work. What were some of the things that you knew were the signs for you, or the triggers for you that enabled you to see, hey, I'm not actually doing too well? Was there clear signs and symptoms that you were going through, or did you have a fair understanding of mind and behavioral health prior to that moment, or was it all come from experience?
No, literally, it all came from experience. I didn't, I didn't kind of look into psychology and behavioral psychology and all of that sort of stuff until much later, as a result of my breakdowns. That's actually when it happened. But if you want to know what I was going through, the best person to ask was my partner, because he had to nurture me through that. And to be honest with you, like, they were some pretty dark times. So I tip my hat to the strength that he must have had to hang around whilst watching me break and fall apart. There were just nights of endless crying and tears after tears after tears, and just being stuck in a really dark hole and not being able to get out of it, and insecurities coming to the forefront, and then being angry at myself and being angry at the world. And I was extremely unstable while at the same time playing a principal role in a show.
High performing, yeah.
Yeah, like, being a witness to that would not have been easy, but it hurt. There's a lot of pain there, and I'm still kind of working through a lot of it, to be honest with you. But luckily, I discovered therapy. Luckily, I discovered a psychologist who was also an opera singer. So I knew walking into the room that she understood me as a human and as a creative.
That's so important. So important.
And lucky she asked the golden question, which was, besides being a performer, who are you? And at that time, I really had no idea. So that opened up a door of discovery for me, and that's really what led me to where I am now.
It's so important. And I know you work in the field as a mental health practitioner, and I mean, people know my views and opinions, and I mean, I just love hearing success stories of this professional services that do a really good job. But there's one clear thing in that you mentioned, and it'll be the same thing that you're being able to provide for the environments that you work in now, is the similarities of knowing as an opera singer to a performing arts, the experiences in which you were going through. So you were sitting on the same level, not coming from a place of not understanding who you are or what you do for a gig, which I think is so crucial to being in that opposing chair when you're hearing everyone's life experiences, being able to relate to that person so that it's not being looking down on someone or looking up to someone. It's even playing field sort of situation.
It's all about empathy, and looking at that person with the same eyes that they're looking at you. One of the biggest turnoffs for performing arts people seeking therapy is having to explain to a therapist just how much their creativity is embedded in who they are. And a lot of the time that's received, that's met with, well, if your industry makes you unhappy, then get another job.
Yeah.
So that really doesn't work. And I think, there's obviously not a lot of understanding there around the fact that it is this kind of weird relationship. We love what we do, but it's torture at the same time. And so I'm happy now to be able to provide that kind of understanding to individuals within the performing arts industry, and for them to not have to explain just how much their creativity is tied into who they are.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the vulnerabilities before, and just I can imagine that going out in front of hundreds of people, but the masses of people, to perform every night, knowing that you've got to put on those smiles, and that that lack of authenticity, knowing that you're going through an unbearable amount of emotional pain, only to back it up night after night after night, and not really get any sort of breather from that. And I can only imagine how hard that is, putting on that fake facade every night just to make sure that you get through each individual performance.
It's exhausting, and we don't talk about it, and there is nobody to talk about it with. We don't have an employer assistance service or anything like that. Like we don't have an EAP or anything like that for performers. Like, you grin and bear it, or you suck it up, or you go home for a day and you deal with it. And then
why is the performing arts field forgotten about?
it's just not given the same focus that some other professions are.
It makes no
Like,
sense.
it becomes you've chosen to do this, and if you're not fit enough for it, then step aside and let somebody else do it. And so we don't have those internal supports. We don't really have, only now are we starting to get organizations that we can actually go and talk to. But there's a lot of shame, about talking about your mental health issues when you're in a company. The last person that you'd want to go and talk to is your stage manager or your company director or your company manager, because you're scared that that's going to be frowned upon, and you're scared that that's going to be used against you.
Yeah.
And so you go home and you drink, or you take drugs, or you use some other maladaptive coping mechanism to manage that. And then, I'm glad that we're getting to a place where people are starting to understand just how much the performing arts needs support like any other industry.
100%. It doesn't make much sense to me, but again, there's not a lot of things in this field that do from time to time. So I want to talk more about we reached the part where you're experiencing unbearable amounts of emotional pain, and you owed a lot of thanks to your partner for what they were to you. And that's obviously one big, huge part of anyone's wellness plan is the people around them. What are some other things that you equipped yourself with during those difficult times that got the feet and the balls rolling in the right direction and back on the path to well-being?
For me, it was having a really strong support system, and I'm really grateful that I maintained friendships with all of the people that I kind of went to school with. My besties from like year 11 and year 12 and right through to about year 7, who weren't in the industry, who didn't have that kind of banter, who anchored me anytime there was any ego, who saw through all the bullshit, and so they were the ones that kept me real. And when I struggled, they were actually the people that I could turn to, because, I didn't have to put on a fake smile. So having a really strong support system, a really good support system to anchor in, was a saving grace for me. And all of my therapeutic work, if I hadn't spent all that time in therapy, like God knows where I would have ended up. Sitting there, being able to unpack, being able to tell my story without any shame, without any guilt, being given strategies like separating myself from my thoughts and separating myself from my feelings, like not seeing the world so black and white, having a growth mindset, like all of those kinds of strategies that are delivered in therapeutic work were my saving grace, because without that, mate, I honestly don't know where I would have ended up.
Yeah, let's touch a little bit more on, for a lot of people out there, they wouldn't actually understand what is involved in professional help. There's a lot of people that are obviously never look down that path and have their own stigmas towards it. And there's a lot of other people that only go once, only to realize it's, or to say it's not for them, and they move completely out of that field. What are some really positive techniques that you used in your therapy prior to being in the other chair now that really helped you? I know you just mentioned a few, but if you want to unpack those a little bit more to give people an understanding of the different techniques and tips that were given to you to take home, or tangible resources that were given to you to deal with your negative emotions at that time.
Yeah. The most important one is listening. That's the most important one. Like, I listen to the person that's sitting in the room with me, and I allow them to unpack, and I allow them to share. As performers, the irony is that we perform in front of 2,000 people a night, but we don't feel seen and we don't feel heard as us. And so giving people the space where they can just be themselves, where they can tell their story, without giving them advice about what they should and shouldn't do, just holding the space and allowing them to unpack and sit with their emotions, is the most effective tool that any good therapist can give you as a client. It's not about looking at you as a guinea pig or as some science experiment. It's about seeing you as a whole human, and allowing you to just tell your story. So that is the most effective part of therapy. course, then we introduce whatever strategies and modalities we use. Like I use a lot of acceptance and commitment therapy, which means that, like you can be going through pain and can be going through a challenge whilst also moving forward. Yeah. So you can accept the way that your life is and continue to move forward at the same time. I use a lot of narrative therapy, which means that like you're basically the author that holds the pen.
Yeah.
So any story that you have in your life that has caused you damage, you get to rewrite. You get to give that pain some meaning and some purpose, because pain without purpose is just pain. So I love using narrative therapy, particularly with performers, because we're creative people. And so when you empower someone to be like, look, I know this story has brought you a lot of harm. So now how do we rewrite that in a way that allows you to grow and feel stronger? And then obviously like solution-focused therapy, which is, brief and, working towards creating strategies that will just allow you to keep moving forward. And life coaching. Like I love life coaching people because it's about empowerment, and it's about getting them to discover their full potential and knowing that they've already got the strengths that they need. They just need to tap into them a little bit more.
To what exists. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything that you say within that I love, because it's about putting the wellness back into their hands so that they get the gratification of knowing that they achieved it and they weren't relying on anyone else. And I think that that's a really important thing. And as you said, empowering people to know that they have the tools and techniques to do whatever they want to be, whoever they are, I think is really important. And for a lot of people, they don't realize how strong they actually are. And until, unfortunately, you get to the bottom and you realize exactly how strong you are. And unfortunately, it takes for you to get to the bottom sometimes to recognize that and to bathe in some of that crap and those experiences until we work out that we're strong enough to get through it, and we have the skill set if we tap in, like you said, to what exists within us.
That's it. Like the thing that I enjoy the most about working with people one-on-one and with seminars and workshops and all that sort of stuff is that I'm not trying to get you to build a new version of yourself. I'm actually there to remind you of what your capacity is.
I love that.
That's pretty much it, and sort of like you've forgotten how strong you are, and like so much has happened to you that you've forgotten just how resilient you are and how courageous you are and how you can manage, because we've all got the capacity to manage. So that's my favorite part of the work that I do.
Apart from sitting in that chair and the work that you do, what are some of the things now that keeps the well-being and wheels going for you as a person, knowing that this is not something that you have and it leaves you forever? It's something that always lingers there if you don't put the time and effort back into yourself. What are some things that are really big on your well-being toolkit that you make sure that you're doing as often as you can, or some things that maybe people listening don't know about that you've got up your sleeve that you want to share with us?
Yeah. Okay. So I think the first thing that I realized I needed to do was hold on to some kind of structure, because I don't function well without some kind of routine.
Yeah.
And so when the world as we knew it collapsed and we got disconnected from everything, structure was the first thing that I kind of needed to create. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I have my rituals, like I wake up in the morning, I do my 20 minutes meditation, I do my 20 minutes mat Pilates workout, I read a few pages from a book, like I do all of that before I turn on the TV, because I want to make sure that my house is in order and I want to make sure that I'm okay before I expose myself to any opinion or insight that might be detrimental to my emotional and psychological health.
Yeah, so don't look for your happiness in external sources, rather than getting up and being proactive rather than reactive to your approach for the day, and knowing that your house is solidly built, as you said, before you worry about going and playing in anyone else's.
That's it. It's like, it's the most important thing is to just make sure that you check in with yourself and that you're okay first. After I've done all of that, then I turn on the news, then I scroll through social media, then I expose myself to other people's opinions and insights and information, but I make sure that I'm aligned first. So that kind of self-care, particularly in the morning when I'm about to start my day, is really, really important. The other one is that I've unfollowed a shitload of people on social media.
I love that. Love
I've
that.
reclaimed Instagram and Facebook as my own because, you know, like some people use it as a platform to vent. Some people use it as a platform to be negative. You know, like I remind myself that when I got it, it was a blank canvas, and anybody that's on there is on there because I chose for them to be on there. So they're my platforms, and so I get to choose whose information I expose myself to. And so I love, you know, my feed now is wicked, man. Like I wake up and, you know, I am greeted by quotes from like Aubrey Marcus and Tony Robbins and Johan Hari and Russell Brand, and it's
Couple
all
of my favorites in there.
you know, like, and it makes me want to be the best version of myself, and it makes me want to think, and it makes me want to create. So just controlling how much information I'm exposed to, particularly at a time like this, is really, really important for me.
Oh, so true. And I'm glad you mentioned it because it's not sort of one that comes up a lot in our discussions on other episodes. It's sort of one that gets missed. And my feed's very similar. It's only, I mean, Facebook needs a good clean up, but Instagram, I mean, I cut that right back. I try and do a clean out every couple of weeks. I mean, and it's nothing against the people that I unfollow, but I don't necessarily need to know about people's lives. I need to be knowing what I can associate myself with so that my life's more productive. And as I've always said, if you raise your life standards, your life satisfaction will raise with it. So, I mean, some of the names you just reeled off, I mean, for anyone that just missed that, your Aubrey Marcus, Johan Hari, Tony Robbins, if you've got any more, these are valuable tools, and people out there should be going and clicking the follow on these people right now, because these same people, as we've talked about on previous episodes, all follow each other as well. They all do work together. They're all on each other's podcast. Like, if you want to be the best, you hang around them and soak the information up of those people. I mean, Johan Hari is someone that I absolutely love, and Aubrey Marcus is fantastic. Both great podcasts, both have books. Yeah, these people have the tools and techniques to help us get to a place of wellness. That's for sure. I love that you're a big fan of especially those two.
I never really understood my depression and anxiety as well as I do now until I read Johan Hari's book.
Yeah, I've been talking to Johan Hari and trying to get him on here.
Yeah, that's I actually at like the Sydney Writers Festival, and I went up to him and I was like, mate, you're like a god to me. Like, you have just explained depression and anxiety to me in a way that no therapist ever has. And I was like, thank you, like for helping me to understand that depression and anxiety actually aren't the problem. They're the coping mechanism for what's actually going on. And what's actually going on is you feeling disconnected to something that you really need in your life. So that was a game changer for me, hands down.
I can't, anymore. That Lost Connections or Chasing the Screen by Johan Hari are two books that just epitomize what it looks like to where the world's at with pharmaceuticals and why we're doing things backwards, and what exists that we're only meant to be there as a stepping stone, not for something that we should be consuming all the time. And I again just reiterate what you just said. It opens your eyes to speak volumes to me about my journey and my experiences. And I know that if I had read Lost Connections 8 years ago, my life would have been very, very different.
Yeah,
so it's never too late to do the right thing. But I mean, if we can give these books and tools to people out there, I mean, I'm not a big reader myself. I'm the audio type, but there's literally no excuses as to why you shouldn't be reading these things or listening to them at the moment. They're just absolutely fantastic. And Johan Hari is someone that's very approachable too. So, hope, fingers crossed, we can get him on here, because what a wealth of knowledge that guy has about mind and behavioral health. But love, belonging, connection, and purpose, the four things that fundamentally we're wired for as human beings. And they make a massive difference when we are connected to all of those things and not having disconnect. Sharon's just said, can you please put up a list of those, Matt? Absolutely. I'll type away while we get Will going again. Will, what are some other things that you've got going? There's a wealth of knowledge right here, and there's some things that we're tapping into that we haven't on other episodes, which I think is fantastic. Any more of your wellness tips, tricks, techniques, or things that really keep you well? I mean, you're in the morning in the day by the sounds of it, which it speaks volumes to Mindful Oz. So what else is there in your skill set?
You know, the biggest thing in my work with youth, and particularly with performing artists, one of the biggest things that I talk about to them is staying in your own lane. Just learn to live a life where you stay in your own lane. We spend so much time comparing ourselves to other people, comparing our processes to other people, comparing our approaches to other people, living by other people's timelines, that we actually like dishonor who we authentically are and how we authentically go about things. So just stay in your own lane and appreciate that and respect that. And it's your timeline, your process, your approach. It doesn't need to look like anybody else's. And sure, you can borrow, you can look at other people's lanes and borrow from their strengths and make them your own. But if you live a life where you stay in your own lane, you grow endlessly.
Yeah, 100%. But it's exhausting. And I mean, everything that you talk about comes back to everything that we've talked about earlier in this episode. And to show up, and like you said, you're working with these young performing arts champions at the moment, just to encourage them to show up and to authentically be themselves, to believe in themselves, to be more of themselves and to love themselves. And we can only do that if we're in our lane. It's too tiring. It's too exhausting to wake up every day as someone else, as someone that you're not. And through those paths, we really spend a lifetime around the wrong people. So when we can just show up and authentically be ourselves, whether that's weird, wacky, crazy, batshit, bananas, whatever it looks like, you're going to find the same people that really resonate with that, and those who love you for that, not those who make you feel like you need to change or do something different in order to fit in with that sort of people. So I just think such a big one for a lot of people out there, and only if we could shake the world a little bit and just show them how beautiful life can be when we just show up and truly be who we really are and not who the world wants us to be.
And just kind of, just appreciate that what we offer the world is enough, and it's unique and it's our own signature on it. And so the more you can kind of shine bright and grow and vibrate in your lane, the more powerful you become. And, like I say this at schools, and, a few teachers cringe, but, anything outside of your lane is actually none of your fucking business.
Yes. It was a big one on the last episode when I was speaking to Andy McPhee. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. Will, he's Sons of Anarchy actor and all the rest. He was saying, which is really basic and just so good though, is not one person gets out of bed of a morning and goes, you know what, today I'm going to go out of my way to piss Andy McPhee off. And I know I've just found myself over the last couple of days when I would normally, lose it or not lose it, get a little bit, grit your teeth moments, just to understand if someone's, beeping the horn or, not letting you in, or someone was rude to you in a supermarket or whatever it looks like, is to just know, hey, that's their own pain and that's their own shit. And they didn't get out of bed today to give me hell. Doesn't excuse crap behavior, but it also is nice, just simple, just for me to sit back and go, hey, that's their own crap, and you've been there too, and they're on a path, and hopefully they'll find their path soon. But just to know that no one gets out of bed every single day to cause anyone else pain and struggle or discomfort. So that was been a real big one for me just recently, just going, hey.
Amazing. It's a hard practice to maintain, but I think, because of my education in psychology and because of the therapeutic work that I do, like whenever I come across a challenge or a challenging person, I really do try to understand what must be going on for them. So that I can respond to the situation rather than react. Because it's really easy to react if you think that someone's coming at you for the purpose of hurting you. They're coming at you because they're actually hurting themselves. And so I am getting better at being able to press pause and just being like, you know what, it's actually not about you, Will. This person's going through their own pain and they're dealing with it in their own way. And you're just the coping mechanism for that. So yeah, just, viewing the world with understanding and empathy is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I agree. And it's something that I'll continue to work on. I mean, it's something that I found myself, getting frustrated by other people's bullshit from time to time, but and it's a continual practice, and I'm definitely not perfect, that's for sure. And it's day by day is chipping away at those things that hold us back from being the best person that we can be. But with empathy, and I mean, you've mentioned it a few times so far, the ability to not actually know what they're experiencing, you don't need to. It's about understanding that they're going through pain, and I know what pain feels like. So therefore, I'm going to do and act and behave the same way that I would like someone to act be or behave if I was experiencing pain. So not attaching yourself to the situation or the circumstance, but attaching yourself to the emotion.
Yeah.
True empathy.
Seeing beyond the presentation, seeing, there's a whole story that's going on there. It's not just what you're seeing. So, just having the ability to open your perspective up to what is actually going on in this person's life that I don't know about, that's making them behave in this manner, just, allows you to appreciate that we're all just doing the best that we can.
Yeah, so important. It's and as I said, it's something that continue to work on every single day. It's a choice that we have every single morning when we wake up: love or hate, empathy or apathy. But if every single person operated out of a place of empathy, how nice would this place be to live in? And I think a lot of people are getting there. And we talk about COVID at the start, but I think that the pause that we're having at the moment is allowing people to understand the world a little bit better. And I, as my mentor always tells me, and I totally agree, you can't unlearn what you've learned. So to hopefully for people to go back out the other side of this and to understand that the world doesn't have to go back into its rat race. The world doesn't have to go back into crazy, flat out disrespect, poor behavior, lack of prioritizing for the things that truly matter to us, lack of connection. So these are things that we've got a choice every single morning we wake up, not just because we're in COVID now, but out the other side of that, so we can all contribute to something more beneficial on the other side.
That's it. I think, there's a real danger in trying to recreate what was.
Yes.
I think this is the perfect opportunity for creation.
Yeah.
This is the time you write a new story. This is the time that you check in with yourself and you eliminate from your life what doesn't work. The idea of going back to what was, I think you do yourself a disservice, because, well, it's the definition of madness is doing the same thing again and again and expecting a different result.
Insanity, isn't it?
Kind of like, this is fair enough. It's a thorn in the side, like nobody asked for it, but at the same time, it's an opportunity to grow, and it's an opportunity to become more than what you were.
Yeah, we didn't come all this way to go backwards a step, I don't think. So, we've put in the hard work. We've done all this time in solitary confinement of recent. So, I mean, yeah, we don't want to get out the other side of this and return back to the old pre-COVID situation. I think, everyone says that they miss this, miss that, miss this. That's all well and good. We'll get that on the other side of this, but let's not miss all the things that were creating a horrible world for so many people out there that are aching for something better. So if we can take what we've learned and grow from it rather than going back to normality, and I think I see a lot of people writing that recently, is I just want things to go back to normal. Well, I hope there's a new normal, because I'm quite content with what's going on at the moment in some aspects, and we'll miss the pause that the world's created for us, because I think it's a really good opportunity for us to learn and grow. And as we were talking prior to going live, Will, it's, there's a lot of things we've missed out on and a lot of things that we're just aching and itching to get back to, but there's some things that we've achieved that we would have probably never. And I think that that's a really beautiful thing, but I don't think we need COVID to come back around again before we can do that again. Just the ability to create and to pause and reflect and to know what's important on the other side of this. Who's been your best teacher, Will, in your mental health and wellbeing journey? Who are some of the people that's been, I guess, there for you? Maybe it's yourself. Who are some of the people that have really inspired you or kicked your butt into gear in those tough times? I know you mentioned your partner and the success that there was in that and how they held you through that time.
Yeah.
Have you got some other ones that have been bigger, and what is it that they brought to the table that really made you feel a sense of belonging, purpose, meaning, all those sorts of beautiful things?
I think, my partner's been the biggest game changer for me, to be honest with you. Like helping me to discover my self-worth has been the biggest game changer. Like, I cop a lot of flack for not valuing myself enough, and I get put in line, when I sell myself short, and just having somebody remind me of what my capacity is, and that I'm allowed to ask for this because I'm worth it, and just to appreciate my strengths and not apologize for them, and not diminish my light, has been an absolute game changer. And, you know, a lot of the decisions that I make come from knowing my worth and being able to put my foot down. And, you know, so there's a power that comes from that. And I guess the other awesome gift my partner gave me was the art of asking, using the art of asking. You know, it's, if you don't ask the question, you don't know.
Oh,
So
it's so important. My mental
yeah,
health even gets into me all the time about it. It's not something I've ever been good at either, but you don't get what you don't ask for.
that's it. It's like, just ask the question, Will. Just ask the question. What's the worst answer you're going to come up against? No. You know, and then you move on, and then you go in another direction. But the art of asking is the greatest gift that we can have, because we can't do it all alone. And sometimes it requires collaboration. Sometimes it requires help and support in order for you to be, you know, the best version of yourself. And so I think the art of asking was another wonderful gift that my partner gave me. Besides that, I guess, besides, you know, my relationship, like I said, my school friends, you know, have kept me really, really grounded. My family, to be honest with you, I think my family's been the best teachers. I come from a migrant family. I come from a low socioeconomic family. You know, a real humble family, and just they've taught me to grow into not taking things for granted, and just appreciating what I have, and just seeing the silver lining, and being able to kind of, you know, just grow and appreciate. It's been an awesome game changer, because otherwise there's this just constant, you get, what's the word? It's seductive. You get seduced. Yeah, you always want more. You want to be bigger. You want to be better. You want more money. You want more clothes. You want more, you know, junk stuff. You know, all those junk values that Johan Hari talks about. Yeah. And so I guess, yeah, like my family has just kept me grounded in what's real and what's important.
Oh, I love that, mate. I want to just touch on something that I've missed during this, but you just flirted with the idea of it then, and that's that growth mindset that you talk about, and I know you're big on it. How do you shift that, and how do you achieve that from going from something and limiting ourselves to something, to changing our whole views and aspirations for something, or to give ourselves a more positive definition of what something looks like? How do we achieve a growth mindset, and how do you work on your mindset every single day to ensure that it's still there and gives you the best opportunity in every opportunity?
I check myself when I start saying things like, I'm doing everything I can. I've tried everything. You know, there's nothing left for me to do. What more can I do right now? Like, I check myself when those phrases come up, because that's what a fixed mindset is. And so I make sure that I go, you're doing it, Will. You know, you're looking at life through a single lens. And a growth mindset isn't always about moving forward. A growth mindset is also about growing sideways, pressing and growing sideways, and just taking your time to come up with different strategies and ideas and approaches, and methods that you weren't considering before, until you find an opening that you can launch into. And so, yeah, like, growth mindset is just, there's always a way. Where there's a will, there's a way.
I love that. Well, it's nice to have a name associated with such a positive phrase, isn't it? I'm going to whip up some photos of you performing, mate, or some photos that I've stolen off the internet. I hope you don't mind. But you did perform. Let's talk about some of the more fun things that you've experienced. Being able to travel the world on the higher stages and being in all these shows. I mean, for a lot of the Mindful Oz following, especially myself, I'd love to know a little bit more about what it looks like and the rigors of it, but also the positives. I mean, it must have been such an experience that made you feel so alive, being out there in front of so many people doing these incredible shows like Aladdin and Lion King and West Side Story. Like, that's incredible.
So my first gig when I moved to Germany, my first gig was in front of 30,000 people.
Wow.
It's my first gig in Germany. I was backup dancing for a pop group, and we came out and we did like the Germany's version of the Grammys or whatever. And my first gig was in front of 30,000 people, and I just remember the rush was unbelievable. Don't get me wrong, I'm shitting myself,
I would too.
but the buzz that I got from that was just like, oh my God, this is where I belong, you know? Like
Yeah.
I was made for the stage. You know, climbing the ranks, I traveled all around Europe. You know, I toured with Saturday Night Fever, and I toured with Aida, and I lived in Switzerland for a year doing We Will Rock You. You know, I moved to Australia, and I was on So You Think You Can Dance for a very brief moment. I did get voted out first.
I used to love that show. All I wanted to be as a kid was a backup dancer. I was a big MJ fan. All I wanted to do was dance, and Chris Brown come along, and that's all I wanted to do was dance.
Yeah. You know, it's funny you should say that. So when I was in Germany, I backup danced for the Noah Angels, which is, they were the pop star winners in Germany. So the people that won it here were Bardot. So I danced for the equivalent of Bardot in Germany. And I remember the day where we came out of the airport. I can't remember what city we were in. And we just got swarmed by fans, and we got packed into a limousine, and fans were banging out the window, and fans were like standing in front of the car. And to be honest with you, that was a moment where I went, this isn't for me.
Yeah,
This kind of madness, this chaos, I was like, I tip my hat to people who are brave enough to live through that day in, day out, because that kind of madness was not my cup of tea at all.
Yeah, I mean, people look for that fame and that, but I make too many mistakes to be in the spotlight 24/7. So I mean, I just don't. We've seen it a lot with the speaking. You know, in America, there's been some big audiences and some people that I guess they see you as a beacon of hope, and so they follow you, write to you, put things under your door, and it's quite hectic. But yeah, it's not something that I would like to have. I like being, as I said, I make too many mistakes to be in the spotlight. I get myself in too much trouble, that's for sure.
I think, you know, like what's beautiful about a career in the arts is having the choice to tap in and tap out. You know, when you want your privacy, it's there for you. You can just go home. You're no longer that character, and you take your costume off, and you're just you. But living that kind of fame and stardom that a lot of celebrities have to, that's not easy. That's really not easy. So you kind of, you know, like you do get seduced by that for a while, but then, you know, you end up going with what's authentic and going with what you truly value. And I will never have a day again like my last show was at the Sydney Opera House. I was in a Latin American show, so it was all about my culture. I took my final bow in front of like 2,000 people, and I bawled my eyes out because that was the end of that chapter, and what a way to go out. I went out with a bang.
Yeah, wow. Some incredible experiences, mate. Do you get to watch any of them back, or any of them online that we can go check out?
I can't. I hate seeing photos of myself. I hate photos of myself. Film and TV would never have been for me. I just don't feel comfortable like that. But, you know,
I never listen to them back. Never want to see myself talking on stage. I won't watch them.
It's awful. And I think, you know, why I love what I do now is because I'm actually at service to something greater than myself.
Yeah, I love that.
It's not driven by ego. Like I'm a vessel to actually do the work. It's no longer about me and my glory. And this is why I sit comfortably in this, because I'm just the messenger.
Messenger. I love that. And we're all just students to the world game, aren't we? And always learning. And the idea is to share those experiences with everyone else. Meredith's got a question for us here. Will, do you find maintaining your physical strength a challenge, or more the mental health? What a question. Love that.
Wow. So my physical health has changed, Meredith.
Hey, we're going to actually pause you there, Will. We're going to get it up. Here's another one. So there you go, Meredith. Look at the rig on him. Not bad.
I don't look like that anymore. You know, like that took a lot of work. That's an athlete's body. Like dancers are athletes. So that requires a lot of conditioning and a lot of maintaining. And so it's so much harder now to maintain my physical health when it's not my job. And so I have to make the effort to run, and I have to make the effort to do, to weight train or do a class, a gym class or something like that. And so, I guess I've become more comfortable with what my body looks like because I'm not trying to recreate that. Yeah. That's me in a past life. And so I think being active for me is more important now than having a six pack and pecs. Yeah. My mental health is my biggest priority. Like that to me matters more than anything else. So my meditation is important. Being mindful, my practices, my mental health practices are really, really important. Reading, getting educated, learning new things, learning new approaches. For me, it's far sexier having a brain than a body.
One of my mentors, Kevin Hines, always the slogans on their shirts and merchandise over in America is brain health is sexy. And I couldn't agree more. What a world it would look like if people believed that it was sexy not to hide the shit that we all go through. And rather than step out and own it and work our way through it. But we'll get there one day when the same emphasis is put on to our mental health the same way as is to our physical health. Do you still do a lot of stuff for physical health, Will, or is it sort of something that you just let your body relax these days?
No. I'd be lying if, I think there's a part of me that's been conditioned to move. And so, I can tell I miss it when it's not in my life. I miss it. It feels odd. So I always do my 20 minutes mat core Pilates practice in the morning. I go for runs, like I've got my weights in the apartment that I use as well. I'm not obsessed by it. It's kind of, like I commit to it when it feels authentic and when it doesn't, I just go for a walk.
Yeah, I love that. I'm at the same sort of stage. I think I was doing it for a long time because I know that I needed to do it rather than doing it because I loved it. And there's you have to love what you're doing for it to sit or stick with you. That's for sure. So, what's some of the places that are, or not? I shouldn't say places. What brings you the most joy?
Oh, God, that's a really good question. Little things. It's the little things. Yeah, it's just things that I wasn't able to do before. Like our schedule as performers is grueling. So I love now that I can actually sit and have dinner with my partner. My partner's a performer who's currently out of work and not on stage due to everything that's going on. So we've really been able to enjoy each other's company. Like watching a movie together on a Friday night is heaven. Going out for like brunch on a Saturday or a Sunday or going to the markets and doing all of that sort of stuff. You can't do that when you're in a show. It's a 4-show weekend. So, all of those little things, are just, to me, are gold right now. I love sharing time with Ross. I love connecting with people, via Zoom now and all of that sort of stuff. People overseas. There's a big difference between connection and socializing. Like I love that now I actually get to connect with people and I'm not socializing, because the performing arts, it's, lots of opening nights and lots of parties and lots of clicking champagne and, but I don't know that there's any real kind of conversation. It's like, what have you done? What are you doing next? And what do you look like? And so I just think the little things now are the things that make me the happiest. They bring me joy. Being human.
Love that, mate. Love that. The small things, all the 1%ers add up to 100. So only if we recognize them, but all the positives are so important to the end goal. I'd sort of take you down to a low patch here, but what's the lowest thing that's happened to you, Will? We're gonna ramp it up to the highest, biggest achievement, but what was the toughest moment in your life?
Oh, okay. Here we go. We'll unlock some vulnerability here.
Love it.
One of the biggest things that I spent my adult life working through was coming out. I came out to my parents when I was probably 19, 20. And what I was met with was my mother saying to me, "What did I do wrong?" and can't expect me to talk to your father about that. And I think a lot of my lack of self-confidence, a lot of my imposter syndrome, a lot of my low self-esteem came from not feeling like I was enough. And it came from me feeling like something wrong with me. And I get teary because I guess I realized just how little that made me feel, when all I was being was myself. And don't get me wrong, like, Mum and I have a great relationship, and it took Mum a really long time to come to terms with my homosexuality, and she loves my partner. We're engaged, we're getting married. That's a whole other ball game, but I think just being shamed for being who I was something that I don't think I've ever truly recovered from. And so any trigger that reminds me of shame is like a dagger in my heart. And I spent most of my adult life trying to work around that and get to a place where there is nothing wrong with me, and I am who I am, and I don't need to apologize for that.
No, I love that, mate. And you certainly are. And it's those experiences and that dagger of shame that helps you have the impact that you do on hundreds and thousands of young champions that are going to go walk through the same path as you. And they're going to hit the peaks of these biggest stages around the world, and they'll be able to handle them and grow through those situations because of the information that you share. So, mate, that shame that you've had is definitely magic for so many other people. And that vulnerability just then it's inspiring for me to listen to, and no doubt for everyone else. So I appreciate that, mate. Let's take you up to the highs. What's the biggest achievement for Will? What, you've danced in front of 30,000 people, mate. Does it get any bigger?
Yeah, honestly, like with my new hat, with this new career, the thing that I'm the most proud of is integrating 2 12-month programs into 2 performing arts schools. That to me was me being seen and being heard, and someone actually valuing the work that I do. So for these 2 major schools to say, we love what you're about and we love what you're serving, let's bring you on board for 12 months. And giving me the freedom to implement, the Student Mental Health Solutions program was a highlight, and is a highlight. This is still a pilot program. I'm still going. I'm still learning. I'm still working with those kids in those courses and learning from them. But I guess being given the platform to be able to do that was awesome.
Love that so much, and I hope one day I get to sit in and see the brilliance of your programs, of what they are, and to see the impact firsthand of those that you get to work with. I know I'm just going to put up another photo here. I put this one up because I'm familiar with the studio. That's Gippsland. For everyone that's watching from Mindful Oz, there's our little old Woggle in Gippsland. This is doing some of your brilliant work with these young kids, and mate, I can only imagine how impactful it is. And as I said before, just you being able to be in that space of knowing exactly what it feels like to be those little kids in front of us right now, and to sit on those yoga mats in those same studios. That's handy that they've got that experience up in front of them, mate.
That was so amazing. I'll never forget that group, because they were so young, but just so woke.
Yeah,
they were okay to talk about their feelings, and they were okay to talk about stage fright, and they were okay to talk about being nervous, and they were okay to talk about, comparing themselves and feeling that they're not good enough. And I was like, wow, there's adults that struggle with that kind of conversation.
Oh, yeah.
And these kids tapped into their vulnerability so not so easily, but just so honestly. And it was a really beautiful thing to see, and a really wonderful thing to work with. So one of the strategies that I used with that group was, we talked about clouds in a blue sky. And we talked about the blue sky being the best version of them, and being all their goals and their dreams and their aspirations. And sometimes there are gray clouds that get in the way, but that doesn't change the fact that the blue sky is still there for you. And so by the end of that session, they all were calling themselves cloud watchers, because they learned that they weren't the cloud, they're the person that's watching the cloud, and that the cloud will eventually move and the blue sky will be there again.
Oh, how good, mate. If only, I know everyone that's familiar with the work that we do at Mindful Oz is all about the proactive approach to speaking to these young champions as early as we can, and to making it relatable for them to understand our emotions without from walking out of those lessons and they wouldn't even know that they've just worked on their brain and mind and behavioral health. So it's a skill set that we need more of, and I hope that more people inquire about getting you out to their performing arts studios to do the same work, because that's it's going to make a massive difference for these kids in these community. And obviously I'm very passionate about the work happening out in regional parts of Australia. So when you see people like Will going out to Gippsland, it definitely fills me full of joy, because these are the areas that a lot of people turn their back on, unfortunately. So, Will, who do you follow for information, education, knowledge, inspiration? I know we've named a few of them. Who else do you go to find all this education and information that you share with the world?
Maston Kip.
Maston
I don't
Kip.
know. Yeah, Maston Kip just does some incredible work with trauma.
Okay.
Like trauma and how it sticks in our body, and the ways that we can work with emotional trauma. Like, honestly, follow him. His seminars. Maston Kip, just a phenomenal mind.
Okay.
I love watching his stuff on Instagram, his chats and his talks, because a lot of what we're working through in life is emotional trauma. Like, we're all scarred. And so the more that we understand it and the more that we can work with it rather than against it, the more that we can grow. So yeah, Maston Kip is a massive shining light for me.
I love that. That's one we haven't had on, which is brilliant. You're a book man or a podcast man?
I think I'm more of a book man, to be honest with you.
What are some of those books? Fire them off.
Like, yeah, all the Johan Hari books. Paulo Coelho. I think I've read every Paulo Coelho book there is. The Alchemist. Jordan Peterson. My God.
12 Rules of Life. The Antidote for Bullshit.
That Jordan Peterson book, just game changer.
Yeah, I've heard him speak live, and he was brilliant.
Yeah, just and that's where I kind of, you borrow from people's strengths and you borrow from people's lanes, and that's why the whole concept of like putting your house in order first and then worrying about everybody else's house comes from a Jordan Peterson philosophy. I need to make sure that the oxygen mask is on me before I try to rescue anybody else.
I love the lobster analogies of, your as our lobster or whatever sea creature that he uses, and then, they grow out of their shell. But if they keep that shell on and went to the doctors and got medication because it was hurting them, well, then they'd never leave that shell. They would just numb the pain of the shell. But if you step into vulnerability and drop that shell, even though there's sharks and everything else in the ocean, to go find that next shell, that next home, step into that vulnerability, do it for a while until you find that next place of comfort. And I think that analogy is just a beautiful thing for a lot of people to understand it. There's so many times in our life that are going to feel like that. We're going to be restricted and headaches and all sorts of shit that goes on in our life because we're living in a shell that does not fit us anymore. And we're bigger and better than that shell. So to be able to step out of that home that we've been living in for so long and move forward to try and find something that suits us more is just a beautiful analogy for people to understand that there's ups and downs in this path, and it's going to be tough and it's going to feel like crap, but we can stay in the crap or we can run for a new shelter and find something that suits us a lot more. And I think that's something that I've always just been like, I love that. I really do.
I think, like owning our vulnerability, it's the best part of us. We're only as strong as our vulnerabilities. And so if you can find a balance with the two, then you're a whole human.
Love that. But I know we've mentioned books, podcasts. You got any favorites that you tap into or listen to for any of the stuff to do with, I guess, personal development, growth mindset, resilience, anything like that?
Yeah, I love listening to Aubrey Marcus's podcast.
He's brilliant.
Yeah, I love listening to Joe Rogan. For the guests that are on there, I just think like there's so much diversity in this world. There's so many people to learn from, and just a host who can just offer a space where all of these kinds of characters come through it is just makes for a really interesting, listen. So yeah, those two are kind of like right up there for me.
Yeah, well, Joe Rogan, I mean, gets written off as a bit of an idiot, but he's so smart, so knowledgeable, and he asks all the questions that get to the bottom of the things that we really need to know. And I mean, they go for 2 hours. There's content galore there, and as you said, some of the world's best in every given field that he has on there. There's just a wealth of knowledge that people could tap into, and very relatable when Joe Rogan's on the microphone. Anyway, speaks our language.
Yeah, and there's one more that I tune into. I mean, Oprah, of course. How can we overlook Oprah? But India Ari, she's one of my favorite artists. And India Ari has a podcast called Songversation. And yeah, and she's just phenomenal. Beautiful woman, great heart, and just great life lessons.
Love that. Now, this one's a bit left field, mate, but any superpower that you could have, what would it be and why?
Oh, wow, that's a really good question too. I think invisibility.
I said the same thing.
I think invisibility, just to be able just to be in the room and listen and witness that. Which is kind of like, to be honest with you, it's a bit of a skill that we use as therapists. But yeah, just to be able to be in a room and listen and just be able to be in that space and understand. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. It was the same. That question that I ask is because I love seeing what really truly matters to people, and that was the same question that I got asked on a podcast one day that and I said invisibility as well. So mine was for similar reasons, but I'd like to be able to do these work and have the impacts that we do without being seen or having to be amongst the masses all the time. As we both said offline before, that's nice in COVID. I mean, we're extroverts when it comes to our work, and we're very loud and very enthusiastic and a lot of energy for our work, but I'm really loving the pause of just being and sitting and being by myself, and that's where I guess where all our creativity and imagination comes from. So invisibility is definitely for me too. If you could have a day with 3 people, dead or alive, who would they be and why?
Whew, okay. Definitely Jordan Peterson. Absolutely. Maya Angelou. Absolutely.
Yes. Love that.
Who else? I'm gonna say Trump.
Yeah. Yes. I love that too.
Trump.
I love that.
I just want to get in the room and just try to understand. Just listen to understand, not listen to disagree.
Yeah.
So that to me would be an awesome dinner party.
Yeah, I love that. Love those answers. I love these questions because you learn so much about someone from the answers in which they give, even though they might seem like a really bloody bizarre question to be asking in mental health charities video podcast. 1, 2, or 3 tips for those players at home in isolation. I know we're easing on the restrictions right now, but it's never too late to do the things that are right for our well-being or for us to move into becoming our best versions of ourselves, not only for ourselves, but the people around us. 3 tips in isolation, to take out of isolation that would help us be that and do that.
3 tips. Create the kind of life that works for you. That's tip number 1. Like, if this is going to teach you anything, then allow it to teach you that you have the power to create a life that works for you. So that's, I guess, yeah, like eliminate what doesn't work. Number 2 is connection is more important than socializing. So just be aware of who it is that you connect to and why you connect to them, and value that, because we're going to be in a world, again, where we're surrounded by people, but that's a very different thing. And I guess the other one is be okay with what it is that you're going through. And, it doesn't need to look like anybody else's process. So just be okay with however it is that you cope, because that's a true version of yourself.
Love that. Love that. I'm going to take you back to 19-year-old Will and your deepest, darkest traumas that you went through. What's your advice now for that young Will? If you could just grab him, hold him, sit next to him and comfort him, what would you say?
Oh God, here we go. Let's try to do this without bursting into tears. That you're going to spend a lot of time thinking that you need to be seen by everybody else in order to matter. And it's going to take you a while to understand that actually the person that needs to see you is yourself. And once you're okay in your own skin, and once you don't apologize for who you are, and once you own your vulnerabilities and your strengths, then you will be as powerful as you always wanted to be. And the world will open up to you in a way that you never imagined.
Man, you are exactly what you just mentioned. You are that. The vulnerabilities that you just bring and the strengths in which come from that. And when you play in your strength, and vulnerability is definitely your strength. I mean, I love that you can just step into a conversation that's online and seen by however many people, and just bear all like that. And that's as I said before, it's going to be something that inspires so many young kids to do the same thing, and they'll live a healthy, happy, and fulfilling life like they deserve. So, mate, you should be extremely proud of yourself. And I want you to go back and watch what you just said because it was brilliant.
Thanks.
What's next for Will, and where do we find him?
Oh, what's next for me? Just to continue growing the seeds that I've planted. So I would love my outreach to expand to sort of more performing arts schools, all the little ones that think they don't matter. I would love to, I guess, be able to open up my services to more professionals in the industry, to create collaborations with commercial theatre and live performance, almost as kind of like a consultant, I guess, in a way, to I guess, the sky's the limit, and I'm just going to keep trying to, I guess, create what I wish had been available for me throughout my developmental years and throughout my professional life. So it's not necessarily about bigger stages and bigger audiences. It's just about having my voice heard in a way that it can create impact and allow people to discover who they truly are and how powerful they truly are.
Oh, I love that, mate. And I just want to I hope that I'm going to put up your links to find your work, your Instagram, your Facebooks, your websites, and I really want people that are listening and that'll watch this later on to get in contact with Will. I don't want you to follow his journey. I want you to get in contact with him and inquire about how you can get him into your industry or your local community. As I put Peanut down on the ground to get him involved. You've heard him speak tonight. You've heard the wealth of knowledge and experiences that he has. Please don't follow his journey. Get involved with his journey, and to have him in your communities, within your performing arts centres. Get this guy around our kids with a proactive approach to looking after their well-being. Now, I've been sitting here taking notes. There's the camera as we go, and I wasn't going to do this, and I just wanted, while I was listening tonight, I was just jotting down all the things that you've talked about that are big components of your wellness plan. Now, for anyone out there that's listening right now, we've talked about low self-esteem. We've talked about the daggers of shame, imposter syndrome, all these things that listeners right now would know that they've been through at some point in their time or have got people in their lives that are experiencing these things. Here's some things that I've just written down through this episode, this last 70 minutes tonight that Will's been talking about, that he puts into his wellness plan every single day to be well, to be the best version of himself, and to learn to love himself again. And I think the more people that can understand this list and to do these things on their list, because everything that he mentioned is free. Everything that he mentioned, we have unlimited amounts of. We possess shitloads of it. Spread that stuff as far and wide as we can, and to use it and tap into it as many times as possible throughout our days and throughout our weeks, so that we can become the person that Will is, because you've seen and heard how fantastic he is and how he goes about it. And that doesn't He hasn't always been that way. So I just can't harp on it anymore. There's a one set menu for the way in which we approach mental health and well-being, and it's therapy and medication. When that changes, when we approach these things like on this list that I'm about to read out, we will see this world turn and turn fast, and we'll see people live the healthy, happy, and fulfilling lives that they truly deserve and that they ache for. Connection, downtime, nutrition, exercise, a proactive approach, family, meditation, Pilates, core work, gym, weights, giving back, helping others, positive affirmations, education and study, goal setting, reading, podcasting, quiet time, will time, reflection, vulnerability, and working on my strengths and not my weaknesses. Please, that is how you get to the place that Will's at. That's how you get to a place of well-being. It does not come from time. Time does not heal wounds. Time does not solve problems. Problems, wounds, traumas, challenges, shit that goes on in our lives every single day, and we all have a bunch of it that we haven't dealt with. That is the ways in which to deal with it, through doing those holistic, strength-based models every single day and putting time into the stuff that truly matters, and that's you. So please, every single person out there, take a leaf out, go watch this again and write down all the ways in which this bloke keeps well, because that's the epitome of wellness right there. And he still will wake up tomorrow and do the same thing because he knows that something better exists, and he's chasing it so bloody hard. And I love that about him, and that's why I loved having him on tonight. Will, thank you so much, dude. You're an absolute champion. I love seeing you. I love your vulnerability. It's inspiring and I just can't wait to see what happens on your journey over the next 6 to 8 months. And I'm very, very grateful for you to being on tonight, but also very, very grateful for the ways in which you've been a big supporter of the work that I do too. So very, very grateful and appreciate you being on tonight, dude. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. This was such a gift, and this is right up there with one of the best moments of my life. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for hearing me. Thank you for seeing me, and thank you to everybody out there who listened and who took the time.
Yeah, I love that, mate. And next Thursday night, I've been tossing up whether to can Confined by Walls, not by heart, or, will I have my Thursday nights back now that I've got Peanut? But I really do enjoy these conversations, and they inspire me to be better. And I know they're doing that for so many people out there as well. So please, if you want someone to come on, or if you have someone that you know of, if you're listening, let us know who it is. Let's talk to more people. Let's delve deep into the experiences and the knowledge of so many beautiful and meaningful people out there that have lived through the troughs and are now hitting the peaks, and even people that are still going through the troughs and maybe coming on and chatting them out with me and all the rest of you will do them a world of good. So Thursday night next week, we've got 7:30. We've got Joe Williams from The Enemy Within. He's one of my all-time favourites. A First Nations former rugby player in the NRL with the Rabbitohs, former world champion boxer, now doing a lot of culturally amazing work with the First Nations people. He's inspiring, he's engaging, and he's also very bloody real, and we love that here at Mindful Oz. I've just heard someone say, "Can Peanut say hi?" So bear with me. We're going to get Peanut back on. Come on. There you go. Peanut's just woken up. Well, actually, I've forced her up, but anyway. But no, everyone, I appreciate you so much. Just touching on this little one, there's animals. I mean, this dog has brought me so much balance and calmness in my life in the space of 2 weeks. So best decision I've ever made. And if anyone's out there, this is what the world needs, is love, belonging, and connection. And animals offer you exactly that. Every single day. So every single person that's listening in tonight or watching in a later date, we love you, appreciate you, and I hope that you find ways in which to stay upbeat and get through COVID and out the other end, and we're going to achieve so much more beautiful and meaningful things together on the other side. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being with us. I hope you have an awesome remainder of the week and an even better weekend. Big love from me and everyone at Mindful Oz. Thanks, Will. I love you, mate. You're a champion.
See you, mate.